Good morning, guys. Hoping the audio is good. I'm not 100% sure actually because I can't hear the bumper music. So just give me a thumbs up if Janet, you could hear a threat. Just let me know. Sweet. Thank you. Okay. All right, we're in business. So let me let me just get set up here and we'll get rolling. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Uh, I got 8:32 a.m. East Coast time. We're off. We're off to the races here. So Biden's diagnosis. See what the markets look like today. Think it's going to be another big week for gold and silver, and I want to get into the bonds and stuff, the debt bonds for the United States and all that. That's going to be because I'd like to see Florida repeat. Okay, uh, we'll see what happens there. Also, I just had the best pizza of my life, and I brought some more for lunch with me to work today. So we'll talk about that. That's uh, that's some good shit. Straight out of Brooklyn. So talk about that. I'll tease you with that. So good morning to you all. So you see the statement up above there. So yesterday afternoon, it was dropped that Biden was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. All right. And so, as usual, you had two types of people on our side. Uh, and yes, cancer's touched everybody. My mom just got over breast cancer last year. She had a very minimal, uninvasive brand of breast cancer, thankfully. So I've lived through this. I'm not unsensitive. The comments I'll make will probably make a lot of people upset. Um, but you only live once, and I'd rather have an authentic conversation than a fake ass one. You know how I really feel, and I want to know how you really feel. Okay, so let's start with Biden. That's a juicy place to start, isn't it? Uh, Now Biden, as we saw for 4 years and a bit before that, was just not with it. Obviously, okay. So there's no secret that the guy had a bunch of ailments. I don't think that anybody in MAGA, remember I said yesterday there were two types of people. I'll get to that in a minute. I'll get to the description in a minute. There were two types of people. There's two types of people commenting on Biden. Now, it's not that we're upset if you are upset that Biden has an ailment. I mean, you got to remember the Democrats were saying, the guy could run the Boston Marathon and, you know, sign peace treaties by lunchtime and by dinner time denuclearize Iran's uranium programs. That's what we were being told for 4 years. Raggedy Ann was saying that Raggedy Ann, who's like 40 years old, said this 82-year-old guy could run circles around her. You had not somebody sent me this clip, not last week, not 7 business days ago. Joe Biden was on The View saying that, oh, I was in bed reading my book. First of all, what woman who's in her 70s reads books? I mean, she was on her phone, I'm sure. So that was a lie right there. Just be honest with people. The Bidens are incapable of telling the truth, like any of them. Joe, Jill, Hunter, they are compulsive liars, worse than the Clintons, right? So where I'm going is she was on The View saying, oh, Joe was up till 11, 12 o'clock at night, taking phone calls and working. I don't believe that. The dude was in bed at 6 o'clock after his ice cream. So it's not the fact, friends, that Bella, thank you for co-hosting. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. It's not the fact that uh, Biden is elderly and has ailments. Of course, he's in his 80s. He's not going to be in perfect health. God knows we saw it. The guy couldn't even fucking walk. Okay, and I can tell you again. I had grandparents who had Alzheimer's. When they start shuffling their feet, they're losing their cognitive ability. And then you like not a couple days ago, we were talking about Jake Tapper's in CYA mode with his book, saying, "Oh well, if Biden had been reelected, he'd be in a wheelchair by now. He's got spine degeneration," and nobody was biting on that story, so they cooked up this prostate cancer diagnosis. And guys, the older men in here will understand. The older meaning like 50s, 60s, 70s will understand this. Prostate cancer is part of your a check on that is part of your routine exam at a certain age. Doctors insist on it. This is not a passive type of cancer that men get. It's very, very common, unfortunately. All right. Particularly in his age demographic, which is the older boomers. Biden's 82, going on 83. And let's understand the complexity and the perks of being the president. You have basically 24/7 naval physician care, right? I believe it's the number one naval doctor in the military is the president's personal physician. Trump had Ronnie Jackson, Admiral Ronnie Jackson, who's now a congressman from Texas in his first term. Biden had this other, well, I can't remember his name, who said he was in perfect health not even a year ago. And then you had a bunch of doctors like Dr. Mark Siegel from Fox News and Fox Business. You had Congressman Greg Murphy, I think he's from North Carolina, who's an MD. You had uh, Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who is, a MAGA congressman now, of course, from Texas. They're all saying, "How the hell was this missed?" This is like when you're doing a routine physical on the president of the United States, checking for prostate cancer in a man of his age. Because we've had younger presidents, like Obama was in his early 40s when he was president, so they didn't focus on that so much. But when you have an older president in his 80s, this checking for prostate cancer is as common part of a physical as checking his vital signs, like his pulse, his heart rate. Like this is basic stuff, guys. So it wasn't missed. I'm not doubting that he has it. I'm doubting that they uh they claim it was missed. I think Biden had multiple ailments. A lot of the cognitive stuff you can't really, if you're the deep state, you can't disclose, but they didn't need to disclose it, friends, because we saw it every day on television for four years. So, it wasn't like a news flash. It's just the timing of it with the auto pen story is suspect. The fact that you've got MAGA people, as usual, this is the reason why we shouldn't listen to guys. You shouldn't listen to 80% of the people in our movement. Uh, you know, yeah, I don't want, but they're saying you can't talk bad about Biden because he's got cancer. Okay, while we're in the midst of trying to extract 20 million illegals from this country, a lot of them have already committed murder and mayhem. Do you think Laken Riley's mother and father give a fuck that Joe Biden has prostate cancer? Who murdered their daughter? That was a very preventable murder. Do you think Jacqueline Nungary's mother gives a shit this morning that an 82-year-old man who let animals into this country that that murdered her child? Do you think she cares that an 82-year-old man who's had 5 times the lifespan of her teenage daughter, do you think she cares that he has prostate cancer? The answer is no, guys, unequivocally. And I heard, I was popping into diligence. He had a pretty good space yesterday. Uh, people talking about, don't say anything about Biden. If I'm not, look, I'm not happy anybody has cancer, but I'm a believer in karma, guys. Okay. And the karma police served a warrant on Joseph R. Biden Jr. yesterday. And prostate cancer is the least of his ailments. And they're saying this one's very, very aggressive, which is spreading to the bone. Uh, they don't know if treatments, even aggressive treatments, will work. Uh, my theory is, friends, this man has been dying actively for several years, and we all saw it. And like I said, prostate cancer is the least of his problems. So, because if he has this degenerative spine condition, where if they were successful in stealing the election in the fall, that corpse would be being pushed around the White House by his wife in a wheelchair. So we would have had bigger problems. So that's where we're at with Biden. We'll welcome your comments as President Trump's statement. Let me get a few more things up in the nest, please. If you give me 1 second. Um, so I promised hockey. Look at Savage's post up in the nest. Empty netter. It was a 6-1 game. Listen, the Florida Panthers are my adopted team, guys, for two reasons. One is they have Captain America on their team, Matthew Tkachuk. For those of you non-sports fans, he was he's the captain of the Panthers. He's the one who, or assistant captain, he gave Trump the 47 hockey jersey in the White House uh, in January because they won the Stanley Cup last year. So, and you saw how him and his brother were pretty instrumental in the Four Nations tournament in February. Okay, that's Matthew Tkachuk, second generation NHL player, and yeah, them and Brad Marchand, former Bruins captain, is in his swan song of his career there, riding out the stretch with the Panthers. So I'm happy for him to get another cup. So there's the hockey chatter. Uh, in summary, it's a little bit of revenge for the United States for the Four Nations tournament. Hockey fans will know what I mean by that. One more thing coming up there. So the House Budget Committee, not the House at large, but the House Budget Committee passed the big beautiful spending bill. We can get into that. It's step one of this process of uh, passing this big beautiful bill, which has the tax cuts. Now, it's not a perfect bill because there's a lot of spending in it, a lot of military spending, a lot of ancillary spending, but so are all spending. But they're called spending bills for a reason. Budget bills, right? Budget means spending. So I don't let perfect get in the way of something that is very, very good. I listened to Tim Pool's podcast yesterday. I believe it was his most recent one. And they had Massey the clown on there, and of course he's talking about, I don't like this bill because it raises the deficit. You're going to hear that a lot. The national debt of the United States. Let me explain to you guys how briefly how that's been hijacked by libertarians. Okay, the debt ceiling in the United States is a completely arbitrary number. Recognize if we are $1, guys, in the red in terms of spending, we have a deficit of $1. A deficit is not good whether it's $1 or 32 trillion, whatever it is now. Okay, they're equally bad. I recognize one number is a fictitiously high amount and one number is minimal. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm just telling you the United States is no longer a country that is run with a surplus. That might change with 3 or 4 years of tariffs. And if you can chop that debt down to like 20 trillion, that's doing a lot, right? So I would remind you though that the investment that we captured since Trump's been back in office over a 2 to 10 year plan is around 10 trillion. So just the amount of foreign investment we've got, uh, and that's just the baseline number, is roughly 1/3 of our total national deficit. So that's pretty damn good. That needs to get built into this calculus of when foreign companies are spending money in the United States, it's boosting our economy, right? Uh, so anyway, the House Budget Committee, not the entire House of Representatives, it got out of committee. It needs this bill does need modifications. The Senate puts it through a reconciliation process. The word on the street on Capitol Hill is Speaker Mike Johnson will have his caucus get this ready, and it'll be passed by next weekend by the 3-day, probably by Friday, because they want to, do the least amount of work and get out of Washington for the 3-day weekend. But it might go into Sunday. But it'll get past the Senate. It'll narrowly pass the Senate. It won't be a perfect bill. Here's why it's perfect for regular working stiffs like you and I, friends. It's got I don't think it has the no tax on Social Security. I think the Senate has to add that in. So that's not in this bill. But It continues the Trump tax cuts of 2017. So for a guy like me, this is great. For if you basically if you make under $200,000 a year, uh, you're going to do well with this bill. It increases military spending. Now, it's not just the Golden Dome is in there, et cetera. This defense budget, guys, you have to understand something. Biden wasn't spending any money really on the military other than getting transgender people shoved in there. Other than that, he really didn't spend on anything. So he lost about $100 billion in weaponry in the Afghanistan withdrawal. He didn't lose it. He just fucking left it. So if you're a libertarian Republican in here and you're not happy with defense spending, don't blame Trump, blame Biden. Okay? Because he bent us over royally with the Afghanistan botched withdrawal. The soldiers and Marines we lost are worse enough. That's the most important thing. Let's go to the superficial things. He left about $100 billion worth of equipment there. Left it that the insurgents in Afghanistan took, and now they're using it against us. So, Thomas Massey, direct your comments not to President Trump, who you despise, but point your commentary on military spending to Joe Biden. Or are you one of these Republicans that's going to let him off the hook because he's got prostate cancer now? I really hope not. And if you see Ed Martin, who's going to be the I think they're calling it pardon czar or whatever in the Justice Department, he's going to be examining, first of all, the volume of pardons that Biden issued. There's no way that his frail little hand, arthritic hand, could sign, what was it, 3,000 pardons the last week. It was done by that auto pen. And isn't it funny that Trump, while he's in Dubai and while he's in uh, Riyadh and all over the Gulf the last week, isn't it funny how while he's on Air Force One tweeting about the auto pen, and then on Sunday, fucking they're talking about Biden with a cancer diagnosis, right when the plot thickens. Oh, but I'm sorry, a lot of MAGA influencers tell me that's QAnon. Uh, as somebody who's not QAnon, I can tell you, that they like to say, "Oh, well, sometimes there's no conspiracy. Sometimes shit just happens." Well, I don't know about you, whomever, but I'm not a physician. I find it very, very interesting that many physicians who aren't even political are on X saying, "How did you miss this diagnosis of Biden?" By extension, we have the former White House chief physician, Dr. Ronnie Jackson, in Congress right now, okay, who probably gave Trump all these tests when he was his doctor in 2017 to 2020. And he's like, at that time, Trump was 72, and I was giving him these tests. Why isn't my successor giving Biden these? Of course he was getting these tests. Of course this guy had prostate cancer 6 months to a year ago. I heard a news clip. Somebody was speculating he probably had a positive diagnosis over a year ago. And then you got Jake Tapper, who is admonishing Lara Trump, saying that you're making fun of an old man who has a stutter and you're a terrible person, Lara Trump, for laughing at Biden at the debate a year ago. And then he writes this book with some other hack from the New York Times, some other Democrat bootlicker, uh, in CYA mode, saying this is scandalous. How could the Democrats have allowed Biden to even think about running again against Trump with all these ailments? That book, I think, focuses on the degenerative spine condition. Trust me, just because it's Jake Tapper, guys, doesn't mean it's not true in this regard. If Jake Tapper is writing that the White House sources from the dog days of the Biden White House were saying Biden had trouble walking. I mean, I saw him enough, guys. That's just because it's coming from Jake Tapper. A broken clock is right twice a day. Why would you doubt that? The guy couldn't even fucking walk. His gait was terrible. As somebody who had a grandfather who went through this, I can tell you, when they start shuffling their feet, guys, it's game over. I hate to say it and be morbid, but we've all had grandparents, we've all had relatives who have been there. When they start shuffling their feet, it's game over. It could be Lou Gehrig's, it could be a touch of dementia, it could be MS, it could be a all of the above. The guy's 80, guys. It's not morbid to talk about a fatal disease at that age. It's 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 sad when it's somebody in their 20s, but I think we're adults enough to know we're not going to live forever. I don't want any diagnosis, God forbid, but if somebody told me when I was in my 80s that I was going to be in a wheelchair, I think I could deal with that. I could um, reconcile that in my mind a little bit more than if I'm in my 40s. Do you follow me? 82, 83 is a good run. And again, before people start shitting on people saying, I don't feel bad for Joe Biden, remember this. Biden's basically he's being revealed to be terminally ill at almost 83 years old. Ask yourself, before you think you're a bad person for not feeling, seek it, your inner self. If you're asking your inner self, am I a bad person? My grandfather passed away from prostate cancer. Let me just calm you as a friend and say your grandfather was not uh, the scum of the earth like Joe Biden. Without having met your grandfather, I could tell you that, or your father, whomever had prostate cancer in your family. All right, your father, grandfather, uncle, who died from this terrible disease, was a better person than Joe Biden. Okay, Biden's being we're being told Biden's terminally ill in his fucking 80s. Okay, guess who was not in their 80s? Jocelyn Nungary, Lake and Riley. The list goes on and on. Okay, Joe Biden led a full life of privilege, where he seeded his way into becoming the most powerful man in the world for 4 years. So fuck him. All right. Every time you see an MS-13 gangbanger or a Tren de Aragua gangbanger that's being arrested in some Democrat city like New York or Philadelphia or Boston, just remember how they got here. Remember that that person who is molesting women, some of these guys are not just murderers, some of these guys are pedophiles. Ask yourself, who's responsible? Like, how is this guy from the jungles of Venezuela in my fucking city? How is this guy from the jungles of El Salvador in my city in the Midwest? You can't get any farther from San Miguel, El Salvador than Dayton, Ohio. Okay, you really can't unless you go to Antarctica. How are these people here? Well, it's the guy who everybody's telling you to shut the fuck up about criticizing about Joe Biden. And he takes responsibility. I know he wasn't in his right mind and he was a puppet. Doesn't matter. He's responsible for it. If Trump is responsible for every lackey, every saboteur that leaks to the New York Times and it's his fault, if Trump is responsible for Mike Waltz, basically exposing himself as being a puppet of the Israeli lobby, then guess what? Biden's responsible for 20 million people from Latin America that are all over this country right now. I don't think I need to say anything more. Don't let these MAGA influencers tell you that. Don't let them sound like they have this thing. I'm a better person than you because even though I don't agree with Biden, politically, I don't think we should criticize him. And you know, unfollow me if you're happy that Biden's. Fuck you. I heard that yesterday. Go fuck yourself. Who the fuck do you think you are on an app or in person to tell people to unfollow you like you're something special? Get the fuck out of here. You're the reason. People like you are the reason we lose the midterms. It's not because of voter, and you've heard it all, guys. You posts. Fuck them and the horse they rode in on. I say what I damn well please, and I didn't even say that, but they're admonishing other people that I like and respect on here. MAGA's biggest problem is that if it ever gets over itself, it might actually win something. You know, if the people that are speaking for our movement actually get over themselves, maybe Kerry Lake would have won in 2022 in that Arizona governor's race. Maybe Dr. Oz would have beaten Fetterman the Clown in 2022 if they would just get over themselves. Part of me thinks that, the Democrats sabotaging elections is not the problem. It's really, we need to look in the mirror. We're being led by fucking idiots on the influencer side, guys. We really are. Anyway, grab a mic. Bella, you can jump in anytime if you want. No pressure. And might be early where you're at. So, guys, grab a mic. So let's talk about all your thoughts here on everything, on all things Biden. Oh, Mark, it's really quick. I got a question about that in DMs this morning. So basically, gold and silver on the rise. Long story short, gold's up to about $32.50 an ounce, silver about $33 an ounce. Let me just check the markets. Markets are almost open. Let me just check how that's doing. Looks like markets are up today. And what's ripping on my end is gold and silver stocks are doing very well, at least in my portfolio. I just checked them really quick. So they're projected to have a good day. Just something to keep in mind. Never financial advice. Go ahead, Janet.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you that that they knew that he had this before he even ran, before they even installed him or whatever you want to call it. But now that's what they're going to use. The talking points for every media is going to be, well, you can't blame him for anything now because it's rude and mean because he's dying. So that's what their new. That's what everything's going to be thrown under, is that whole area for anything that Biden did. And yeah, we're realizing finally that he had problems, and now we just have to accept that and move on. Basically, that's all you're going to hear. So be ready to. The talking points is 100% is going to be all around him dying and that he didn't know what he was doing. And no one's going to want to find out who actually used the auto pen for anything, and anything that Trump talks about, because they've already brought up the auto pen last year. And they were saying that that he was full of crap and it's all conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah. That's one reason why I haven't said anything about the QN and stuff, is because honestly, every single thing that happens in politics can't be a conspiracy. So when you hear people constantly saying this is a conspiracy, that's a conspiracy, everything's a conspiracy, it just makes you look like you're a conspiracy theorist. So the best thing for us to do is to just use the facts and hammer on them. That's all I want to add. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, no problem, Janet. What was I going to tell you? The timing of it. Here's the thing. Why I'm a big critic of the QAnon stuff is because, again, not just Democrats, but people on our side. Anytime there's something that seems like a coincidence is brought up, they'll be like, "Okay, QAnon Gads" or whatever. Guys, again, go to Truth Social, log into your Truth Social, and Trump has been obsessing about the auto pen for the better part of 2 weeks. Okay, so all of a sudden, out of nowheres, on a Sunday afternoon, it says Biden has an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Like, okay, so guys, it's not about Q. It's how can you say you acknowledge there's a deep state? That's what Kash Patel is fighting with the FBI, right? Well, yeah, duh. Okay, so you don't think that this is strategic, guys? Like when they released it, or how about the Comey stuff? Everybody stopped talking about Comey in the 8647, like at probably 1:30 p.m. Eastern yesterday. These stories were mounting pressure. We were putting the screws to Comey. The FBI is going to investigate him now for that Instagram post. Trump has been talking about, what about all these fucking pardons that Biden signed? Was he in his right mind? Who did he pardon? Rapists and murderers? Don't you think uh, he was using the auto pen? I don't know if that's even in his presidential purview to do that. Does that make the pardon invalid, provided the person has not deceased since uh, January when Biden left office? And so take all that on, put it on your mantle and sit in your sofa and stare at it. Then as you're sitting on your sofa staring at all these quote unquote conspiracy things on your mantle, this nuclear fusion bomb drops in your fucking lap that Biden's got an aggressive form of prostate cancer, which is something that any doctor should be checking in a man at his age, particularly a former president of the United States. Now we're QAnon people. I won't share with you the influencer that admonished me about that because it's not worth your time or mine. Fucking people are ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. They vote the right way, and that's the only use I have for them. That's it. TR6, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, thanks, Gads. I just want to agree with you as far as the diagnosis. Uh, I'm 70 years old. You know my story, Gads. And I've been monitoring my PSA for 15 years. My PSA levels were higher than normal, but have skyrocketed in the last 3 years since the vaccine. And I never got vaccinated. But there is no way in hell. First of all, prostate cancer is one of the slowest growing cancers. There is no way in hell that they didn't know that he had elevated PSA levels for years. No way in hell. So this is all just like you say. But as far as whether we get to comment on this or not, let's just remember it was Joe Biden himself that said it would be the winter of death and the unvaccinated would die. Let's just remember what he said to the unvaccinated people. And he was the biggest pusher of the vaccine. So fuck him.
I love it, TR. I love boomer on boomer crime, but you're a lot younger than Biden. You're what? You said 70? 71?
70.
70. All right. So you're about my father's age. So I'm going to see my father in like 2 hours. I'm going to ask him about the. I don't. He's not a big text guy. I have to talk to him in person. So I'm going to ask him about this and find out about his testing schedule. Because again, my father doesn't have VA, but he has TRICARE, so he gets his medical care at the naval base. So like all vets in this area do. So he's paying a minimal amount for that. That's part of his retirement package. So I mean, they give him all the tests because he doesn't really have copays for this stuff. And I'm sure at his age, they're just doing it. So this is like TR was saying, this is a very common thing that they monitor in men in this age group. So I don't understand why it's controversial to comment on it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's basically standard practice. Once you get over 50, doctors start doing it, maybe not annually, but it is standard practice.
Yeah, it's like taking your vitals on a patient. I mean, it's as necessary as a woman doing a self-test at home or when she's getting a mammogram for breast cancer. It's the same level of routine, right? It's common, right? And the fact that it's this elevated where it could be turned into a bone cancer. I mean, this was not missed, guys. They're never going to admit to us that Biden had dementia. Okay. No Democrat doctor or CNN is ever going to admit that. Okay. But just because they don't admit it and we know that he has cognitive decline, they know he has it. So they're going to give him every test. They had to keep him alive because Orange Man bad. So we'll find out about that. I believe. Let me just go to Parson. We'll go Parson, Threat, Ben. Okay.
Well, good morning, day before Memorial Day. I agree 100% across the board. I mean, listen, the amount of damage this man did to this country his entire life, and to be a placeholder. I mean, anybody that thinks this guy directed any real policy, was leading this government in any form or fashion, is out of their mind. And I'm not going to uh, mourn the passing of somebody that literally brought this country to the brink of war, and not just brink of war, but in he gave his he didn't give because he wasn't capable of doing anything, but he allowed, by allowing the facade to be done, to be made, so he could glorify himself as, I became a president of the United States, for all the destructive activity that occurred in this country from 21 forward. And it's not like his family wasn't one of the most. Now they might be like, the fumbling, bumbling crooks. They could have probably done a lot better than they did. But the reality of it is they looked at every chance to sell this country out, especially to China. And the more you see what we're learning about China's involvement with his little Penn University uh, cubbyhole where he kept all the documents, literally opening the doors to Chinese intel to come in and basically purge top secret documents in the United States. I mean, this guy is just scum of the earth and shouldn't be memorialized in any way. And for anybody in MAGA, or anybody that actually has a clue to this, to scorn us for saying good riddance. I mean, well, didn't you say good riddance to Saddam Hussein? And to be frank, when George Bush goes, I'm going to say good frickin' riddance, because he took us down a very similar path. Get Saddam, get the hell out. Didn't. We're not going to do nation building. What do we do? Nation building. And all these decisions these people make impact us years and years later. I mean, we're still going to be paying off the debt of the George Bush and Barack Obama's wars for generations to come. I mean, literally, we spent trillions upon trillions of dollars, over $7 trillion. So, yeah, to cry about it, or to come at us for saying good riddance, I hope you die a painful death. You can fuck off, because the man deserves a painful death.
Well,
Now that
Parson,
being said, go ahead.
listen to Diligence. I don't know if you were in there. I was in there for maybe 45 minutes. Listen to he was a good space. This isn't Diligence. Fine. Just some of the people on our side that were in there, they had to pre-screen themselves saying, are you, if you're MAGA and you're happy that he's got cancer, go fuck yourself. Everybody has to say what a good person they are. And like you're getting at, and I'll let you finish, I just want to say this, guys, because I didn't articulate it well. I have a right to criticize Biden for anything I want, because he made decisions, as Parson was just saying, that his failures and his spending and the vulnerability he put this country in will impact me long after Trump's out of office, will impact my children long after Trump's out of office, etc. Like, the actions I take today are not going to affect Bella. The stuff I do today is not going to affect Parson, because I'm not, if I decide to have whatever, either these pizza leftovers I have in my truck, or I decide to go get a corned beef sandwich today, that has no effect on any of you in here, what I eat today. If I decide to go buy $1,000 drill I don't need, that has no effect on anybody in here. The decisions Biden or any president makes impacts our lives, and we're the ones that end up paying for it. So yes, I have every right to criticize him. And I, like I said, my own mother had just got over breast cancer last year. We're all sensitive to cancer. We've all had people, or sadly lost people in our family or friends to some form of cancer. Nobody in here is not sensitive to the concept, and nobody in here does not hate cancer. We're just saying, Joe Biden doesn't get amnesty from me because he has cancer. I knew the fucking guy had dementia for 4 years, and I made fun of him every day on here. Continue, Parson. Sorry.
No, man, that was another great rant. I agree 100%. I just want to add, though, I do think that bringing it out now does have something to do with the conversation about Comey. Now, I'm glad Comey put out his meme, and I thought it was kind of ridiculously funny for a man who held his position in government for so long and had gone out in shame, even though he's got so many people and media to make him out as a hero, to put the light back on himself, because I definitely feel the man was a traitor, and I think it can be proven. And to highlight himself again, my hope was, let's light the fire, get the people to put heat on the FBI and the Justice Department to investigate this guy properly, to investigate the who is it that was appointed to investigate, who came back and said, well, we only had one email that was tainted. This was an entire treasonous actions by a bureaucracy headed by Comey to destroy Donald Trump because he didn't like the guy and he didn't want him to be president. Bureaucrats don't get to make those decisions, and they did great harm to this country. Don't forget the harm that they did to this country, distracting the first 2 years of the term, actually all the way into the final year of his term, and smearing him the whole damn time. This was a treasonous act by bureaucrats that have walked away with big pensions and big paydays that belong to be, for treason. I'm all for. We have to. I've been saying this for years, going all the way back to 2017. We have to hold these people account to set an example to deter other bureaucrats in the future from doing such behavior. And look what we got today. Bureaucrats being, a circuit court judge is a bureaucrat. They're a member of the system. And look what they're doing today. So we didn't hold people account for the treasonous activities. And what are we going to see more of? More treasonous activities. And I'll just land with that.
Yep. There's the treason piece of this too that I don't, we'll find out. But I like the fact that Trump's not taking his foot off the gas pedal with this auto pen stuff, and he's instructing the DOJ, it seems, or he's signaling to them to continue the investigation and oversight. So good stuff. Threat, you were up next.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Regarding Joe Biden, if there's any ever doubt of what kind of a person this is, we'll see it between now and his death, right? Anybody that has some shred of a soul left, facing imminent death, probably in the not too distant future, at his age, might want to unburden their soul, try to make things right before they leave this earth, right? He won't. I have no doubt he's not going to do that. He's going to carry all of those secrets, all of those crimes to his grave, and he's going to protect, the dark powers that installed him into office and have filled his coffers over the years. And that's the kind of man he is. Now, I would like to see him repent and come clean, because I think if he were to do something like that publicly, the amount of healing that would facilitate in this country would be, it would be amazing. But it's not going to happen. This guy is a dark human being, and though I am not going to celebrate, his cancer and his death, but I sure as hell don't feel bad for him. And the sooner that he's no longer in the conversation of Americans, the better. Again, unless by some great miraculous event that he decides to unburden his soul and try to do something good and right before he dies. But yeah, we know that's not going to happen. So yeah, fuck him.
So Threat, while you were talking, I just somebody sent me Donald Trump Jr.'s recent post here, and I'll read it to you guys, or I might have put it up in the nest already, but or I just lost it. Oh shit! But anyway, I'll paraphrase. It basically said, I guess there's some viral video where in 2022 he was speaking. It was an outside speech. I don't know where, and he blurted out that he had cancer. And then Don Jr. piled on saying, when we said, meaning Team Trump, in the off season, as I call 2020 to 2024, the off season, when we brought it up that he had dementia, everybody was telling me he was lucid, etc. So here's another thing about, because you're going to hear it mostly from his press secretary, Circle Back Psaki and Raggedy Ann there. They both went on record saying that he is a miracle worker that never runs out of stamina. And then when you're reading these books by Jake Tapper and these other, Democrat activists, journalists, the press secretary for 4 years did not even talk to Biden. Like, you used to dump that call. Every time Peter Doocy would ask Karine Jean-Pierre about, she didn't know anything because she didn't talk to Biden. Caroline Leavitt talks to Trump every fucking day. You could tell she's 5 minutes removed from a conversation with Trump before she goes out on the podium. She has a briefing this morning, by the way. I'll have to check that on the rewind. But so they were keeping this guy. Forget keeping this guy secret from us. They were keeping him secret from his own staff. So they were being told he's running, he's lucid and he's running circles and he's up till 11 o'clock at night. They would have lied for him anyway. But that's whether it was Ron Klain or whoever the chief of staff was after, that's what they were saying about Biden to the people in the White House. The press secretary is supposed to be briefed by the president every day. And that wasn't happening. So yeah, Jen Psaki, while she's lying about it, she probably didn't talk to Biden or see him before she went out. That's why she never knew the answers to anything. She didn't know what Joe Biden's position was in anything. Neither did Raggedy Ann. See, that's the thing. Threat, finish up here. Yep.
Yeah, to that point, how freaking evil then are also, these people that protected that administration, the Psakis and forget her, Jean Pierre, all of these people who, in spite of, who essentially gaslit the entire country for 4 years. Like, don't believe your lying eyes just because you see the guy shuffling across the stage and falling on his face, and every 5 minutes he's at the beach napping. He's the most vigorous president ever. Like, ignore what you're seeing because your eyes are lying to you. The reality is the opposite. Like, can you imagine how evil you have to be to tell an entire nation every single day lie after lie after lie after lie after lie after lie to protect an administration that was hell-bent on bringing this country down to its knees so that it could then be subjected to a whole new globalist world order. I mean, it's just, these people are so evil. Like, they don't deserve, nobody deserves mercy. Let's face it. If you're a Christian, mercy is given to you by the grace of God. And I guess so everybody has access to it. But, from a human standpoint, like, if all of them got wiped out through, horrible things happening to them in their health or whatever, like, I don't wish that on them, but I don't feel anything for them because they've created so much devastation and misery in people's lives.
Right on. They don't deserve it. And guys, if you have any, Ben, you're next, bud. If you have any doubt as to the destruction, so the next time you second guess yourself in a private moment, either with your creator or in prayer or whatever, next time you second guess yourself, should I be posting that about Biden? Or should I feel, even if you're not a big poster on here, should I feel bad about the way I feel? Go look at Sean Ryan's latest podcast on YouTube. It's free, with Tom Homan. And a big tough guy like Tom Homan is on the verge of tears because this is a guy who has literally not fucking slept since January. And he has the hardest job in America of figuring out a way to get 20 million plus people out of this country. And he already knows he won't be able to accomplish that in 4 years. And look at him almost being brought to tears that what Biden did to this country, and the amount of women and children that have been molested and raped, the amount of people who, even some men, women, and children who have been trafficked, the amount of death, destruction, and mayhem. And that's the humanity part. That's the most important. Our public safety is in great danger because Joe Biden was president. Okay? Not just in the Democrat shitholes. Okay? They're everywhere. Okay? They've caught him in red states too, guys. They've caught MS-13 in nice conservative cowboy Oklahoma too. Okay? They didn't just go to New York and Boston, guys. They went fucking everywhere. All right? So next time you're second guessing yourself, don't. Trust your instinct. This was not a good person. Millions of Americans are not safe today, and they don't even know it. A woman, unfortunately, could be walking into her local Walmart this morning, right? In Huntsville, Alabama, and get molested by Tren de Aragua. And whose fault is that? It's Joe Biden's fault. Just remember that. Ben, you're up, buddy.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I want to say fuck Joe Biden. He and everyone else are responsible for all this political violence. The reason why so many people think that we're like Nazis, and we go to Klan meetings in the woods on the weekends. Biden was getting up there, just sowing divide. Saying how Trump and his supporters are like the greatest threat to our country, essentially. So no, I've got absolutely no remorse for him whatsoever. But yeah, they absolutely lied about this. I mean, shit, Mark, guys, we're the same age, and I go in for a physical once a year. They do blood work, and they test for all this shit. And I'm 46. I mean, you're gonna know about this. It's not just like it's not like the girl that goes to use the bathroom at Target, and as she's going to the bathroom, a baby comes out because she didn't know she was 9 months pregnant. I mean, how do you it's just something you don't this is going to be the case. So I have absolutely zero sympathy for the guy. I also think that the timing, it might even have something to do with just the releasing her audio about how really just, I mean, we all knew this, but all the people that might not know just about how bad he really was, not knowing dates. I mean, if you guys haven't listened to the recording, it's pretty remarkable. But it wasn't surprising because we all knew he was mashed potatoes. But no, I've got no sympathy for him. And there were a couple interviews. I remember, I think his brother Jim did one where he had slipped about some cancer or something or other. But yeah, they absolutely knew. I mean, he knew, his family knew. It's just, I don't know. I just hope he's in pain. That's all I hope. And I apologize. I've had family that had cancer, but they're also not horrible human beings either. So, yeah, fuck Joe Biden. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Well said, buddy. And I like your last point. Guys, we've all been touched by cancer. Trust me, your family members are saints, okay? Not saints compared to Joe Biden. Without me even knowing them, or you telling me one fact about him, even if it was your, a relative that annoyed the shit out of you, or you had a falling out with, they're saints, okay? Joe Biden is not that, okay, by any metric. And not only, by the way, here's another thing, guys. Biden has been he first got elected senator in Delaware in 1972. He was 28 years old, the youngest senator at the time, okay? This guy, and what are the perks of being a senator for 50 years before you're president? Well, you also have, that we pay for these fucking people, access to the best healthcare in Bethesda, Maryland, okay? Or Alexandria, Virginia, or wherever you want to go. This guy's had Cadillac health insurance his entire adult life. Okay. He's never had to sweat a copay. He's never had to put off an operation because he didn't have the money for it. He's been treated by the best doctors that money can buy. Okay. For 50 years. So even if this naval physician, who was the White House physician in the off season here, the last 4 years, fucked up and did a subpar job on his testing, somebody else would have caught it. This cancer would have been caught when he was only 78 in 20 maybe 2018 or 19, before he was president. As an ex-vice president, he's probably going to the same him and Obama get treated by the same doctors that would treat like Trump. Okay, as former presidents and vice presidents. All right, this is what I'm saying. It's impossible. I guess what I'm telling you guys, it was a virtual impossibility. This diagnosis was missed by multiple doctors. The odds are so incredibly against it. Let me tell you how bad the odds are for Joe. The odds are for Joe that this was missed multiple times are equal to the odds. All right, that Chase is gonna hook up today. Okay, that's how the odds are in this regard.
Okay.
So there you go. It's impossible that this was missed, is what I'm telling you. All right, friends. I'm gonna go after Rafi goes. I'm gonna tell you about the stuff in the nest I want you to look at.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone. I just want to say there's no way it was missed. My question is, why didn't Kamala 25 amendment him once she knew it? She would be able to say he has cancer, he's almost dead. Why can I not be president? What stopped her from doing it?
The
I think that's it.
power of the Biden family. I think the influence of the Biden family.
It's doctor in quotations Jill Biden. She's the monster and everything. She did not want him to withdraw from the from the race. She sat in a seat on Air Force One. The power, she wanted the power, and that's what's surprising that she let it go out now, because her money spigot is over once he's done. I think it's anyway done. But hey, I don't give a flying fuck about the guy. The amount of J6ers that died because of him, the country that went down the tubes because of him. Hey, I don't care how much pain he's in. He caused us enough pain. May God not have mercy on his soul. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, man, I think that's everybody's consensus, Rafi, right now, or most. They said there's that fringe group of MAGA that this is the hill they're going to die on. They want to defend Biden until the end of time. We're not allowed to critique anything. Those are my instructions by important MAGA people. I'm not allowed to critique anything. Give me a fucking break. Like I told you guys, my own mother just got over breast cancer last year. So don't give me this shit that I'm not, forget my father. I didn't sleep for a month, you know? So when she got that diagnosis, that affects the entire family. Okay. When a 70-year-old woman gets a breast cancer diagnosis. And you know what? She was always faithful. This is why I didn't sleep. I thought it was something major because she missed one mammogram her entire life. And it was in 2023 when her brother died. And he didn't have a wife, and she had to, he had nothing lined up. She had to do the will, sell his house, do a year of her life was invested in that. And she didn't go to the doctor. She didn't go to the dentist. She didn't go when my uncle died. She had to do everything basically a surviving spouse had to do. He had unpaid, when he got sick, he had unpaid tax bills. You name it, everything. Everything you would have to do when somebody dies suddenly, my mother spent a year on. Didn't spend 5 minutes on herself for a year. Didn't get a manicure, didn't get her hair done, nothing. All she did was clean up my uncle's estate. Okay? And spent a lot of her and my father's own money doing it. So anyway, that's why. And she was kicking herself. I should have gone for my checkup. That's why I didn't sleep for a month. So I because of that, and because thankfully My mother survived it without anything major. This is why I get to criticize it. I've been touched by cancer. All right, we all have. Okay, cancer doesn't happen to just good people that are going to go to heaven. Just so you know. All right, Parson, back to you.
Cancer certainly doesn't. My mom died at 37 of cancer 8 days before my 17th birthday. And I had a easy bout with a slow growth skin cancer that, cancer does affect us all. I do want to mention, just so you guys, little news if you weren't aware, at 10, which is in 28 minutes this morning, President Trump and Putin will be having a long telephone conversation. Today is, I think there's a possibility. I put it at a narrow 25%, but that's actually a huge number that we are going to see some action. And we may see a resolution. We're either going to see a resolution, folks, in the next week, or it's just going to get far worse. So I thought I'd mention that. And this afternoon, I scheduled the space for those that are interested. It's a discussion on has Russia been, and has the U.S. been the best allies of each other's nation since the formation of this country? There's a lot of history behind that. And the question is why don't we know it? Why does every generation from the boomers on do not know that about the special relation? So if you're interested in hearing some history, and if you have something to add, I'm going to kick that off at 4:00 today. We'll see how long it goes. I just thought I'd drop that in there.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to put it in the pill or whatever, go ahead, Parson. I'll put that on the radar. Thank you. Let me go, guys, to what's in the nest, because there's been some commentary you might want to bookmark. So Trump is also on about Bruce Springsteen a lot lately and his rubber skin that he has. I don't know why these people do this, because they've got money. You're not going to live forever. That's Bruce Springsteen. He's also talking about Beyonce was paid $11 million to walk on a stage quickly to endorse Kamala and walk off to loud booing for never having performed. Not even one song.
Let's go.
Remember, the Democrats and Kamala illegally paid her millions of dollars for doing nothing other than giving Kamala a full-throated endorsement. This is an illegal election scam at the highest level. It's an illegal campaign contribution. Bruce Springsteen, Oprah, Bono, and perhaps many others have a lot of explaining to do. Okay, so I want to weave this in, guys, when I saw this, because this kind of goes hand in hand with the situation with the auto pen and Biden. So Rafi talked about why didn't they just remove Biden from the presidency? Well, I think what you have, this kind of is all related. Let me walk you through it. I think it's my theory on it. The power of the Bidens superseded what Kamala Harris, what her aspirations were. I think what happened was when he was going to Delaware all those weekends, he was not going there to, play shuffleboard at his mansion at the beach. I think that he was getting treatment for all of these things, the degenerative spine condition, possibly the cancer, the cognitive stuff. The reason why he did 3-day weekends is because he needed that recoup of 72 hours of doing literally nothing but having doctors pump you full of stuff, is my opinion, just so he could make it back to Washington on Monday morning. Okay? So he didn't have stamina because of these ailments. All right? That's number one. Number two is they couldn't hide it anymore after that debate with Trump in June, which I can't believe is almost a year ago. So, I mean, they had to move at that moment because that was his worst performance. They couldn't keep the charade going. They didn't want to 25th Amendment him, not because they wouldn't have been satisfied with Kamala, because she would have continued the bad agenda for the last 5 months of their administration. It was more of a power play because they wanted Biden to go out gracefully versus being forcibly removed. Trust me, I'm sure Kamala would have liked to have run as the incumbent, right? As the acting president. Right? It would have helped her, I think, in the election. She still wouldn't have won, but they were not going to give her that first woman president title. So the decision was made by the higher ups. Now let's go into this campaign stuff. So Trump's talking about Biden's corruption with the auto pen, meaning that he did not review these pardons or any of these treaties he signed because it was not done. And Trump's very transparent. He doesn't use the auto pen. I think the only time he uses the auto pen is when he gets a stack of, okay, you're the commander in chief. All of these people are getting promoted to an officer. Here's 400 today. That's something. But the executive orders, any trade deals, there's no auto pen. That's why they're public signings. So you know that you have your endorsement in real time. It's filmed. So what we have is, I think the DOJ is investigating this corruption of the Kamala campaign and the corruption of the Biden administration in those last 6 months. So like July to November, basically, that's the window we're looking at. All of this stuff comes to a fever pitch. Once Kamala loses to Trump, Biden out of nowhere. Now presidents signed a lot of pardons on the way out the door. Okay, Trump pardoned Scooter Libby, and General Flynn and everybody else on the way out the door in 2020. Biden went nuts and did I think it was 3,400 pardons. A lot of them are low-level criminals who they're really not important, or they could pardon somebody who a single father who robbed a bank to feed his children, and he's been in jail 15 years, but he didn't kill anybody, and he's been an angel, shit like that. I call those low-level pardons. But 3,400 of them, that could be, in theory, they're all citizens. So they have to be citizens. That could be fucking guys. We don't know. Those could be people, rapists, pedophiles. We don't know. And even if you did know, okay, Biden pardoned Robert Smith of Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay, there's a lot of Robert Smiths. Oh, there's a lot of Robert Smiths incarcerated too. What was he incarcerated for? Oh, nothing. He just murdered his ex-wife by gouging her fucking eyeballs out. Sounds like a sociopath. Not the type of guy you want back in the general population, right? So we don't know the extent of these pardons because he pardoned like the entire state of Rhode Island in one day. Anyway, something to think about. That's what Trump's on about this morning. Go ahead, Rosie.
Okay, so I wasn't going to comment. Bella said comment anyway. I think there's been so much bullshit, and I've been looking at Biden this whole time. I'm like, that's not even him. I didn't even believe it's him. So I think everything's very matrixy. I don't know exactly what is what and who is what, but my lying eyes do not deceive me. I don't think I've been looking at him. So this whole cancer thing, and I know it happens to people, and I'm not trying to trivialize it. But to me, this is Trump's way of exiting out, it was now an opportunity to get out of the Biden conversation and keep his name out of his mouth. The name that really needs to be in his mouth is Obama, Hillary Clinton. Those are the names that needs to be in Trump's mouth right now. And this is a great entryway to say, okay, let's leave Biden alone and go to the real problem. Gosh, it's so annoying. And it's not this space. I love this space. There's very few treasured spaces we have, guys, and let's really embrace them. I have only 8 days left of school after today, so I'll be way more able to participate in spaces. I've kind of been doing a spaces diet. I've been on the Diddy trial thing, just trying to get lost in there because there's so many agents. And when I'm like, people who are the talking heads at the top of spaces, like I'm over it. I'm so over it. They're trying to derail things. They're really trying to put Trump in a bad light. And I voted for him full throttle. I'm not backing up. I'm not, and I can't even go to diner, dads. I can't even do that. I'm like allergic right now. So hopefully that will pass and I'll be able to rein next myself again. But there's one good thing to come from this and we won't be hearing about Biden anymore. Let's go ahead and bring it up. Maybe Comey coming back in the picture is perfect timing because we haven't heard anything about all the shit that was done on Trump in his first presidency, all those crimes. So I think the FBI The DOJ is doing what they're supposed to do, and they do have news every day about arrests. When people say nothing's happening, go to the DOJ news every day, and they show you all of the crackdowns, all of the arrests, all the drugs being seized, all the pedophiles getting taken. It's over 200 just here in Florida in Polk County. One guy owned one of the best sushi places in my county. So they're taking these relevant people down now who can hurt our children now. That's happening. And I'm so sick of people not talking about the wins that we are having by getting these pieces of shit off the street and keeping our neighborhood safe. That's what we should care about.
Rosie, I think you made a good point, but I think I'm not one of these people, as you know, but I think until the Epstein stuff is cleaned up, nobody's ever going to be happy with Pam Bondi or Kash Patel. And we just, as people in here that are more patient and pragmatic, and I understand, listen, it's a big deal. Guy was a monster. But I think there's something bigger than all of this, is that a lot of these people who are victims of the Epstein Island don't want any of this public. And it's not like one or two people. I think it's a lot of people. Okay, because these are not powerful people that can afford protection 24/7. I think it's, just release the Epstein flight. Okay, great. We've released them. Remember about a month or two ago, I was ranting about this. Okay, so you have the name of some Democrat activist lawyer in New York who you've never heard of before, but you have the name. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to go to their apartment in Manhattan and beat the shit out of them? Push them in front of a train? Like what are you going to do with that? So the name is public, unless it's Bill Clinton, George Clinton. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to know these people. I don't understand what okay, so the information's out there. They're people that are very powerful, that have a lot of resources. They're probably going to try and leave the country if they haven't already. I'm not saying they're escaping justice. I'm just saying they're not, waiting in their mansion for the feds to pick them up. So whatever, it's the Epstein thing is, until that is remedied, you're going to have a lot of people that are just never going to be happy. And in regards to the diner, if you want to know, the diner is basically the Jim Cramer of spaces. If you want to be wrong about everything, every prediction, every forecast, go in that space. That's basically where the DeSimps matriculate to, is this diner space where they're wrong about everything.
And it's become a Democrat space too. Like, it's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Ukraine. Like, it's so pathetic, guys. It's so pathetic.
Yeah, you guys were shitting, not you, you guys were shitting on me in 2023 that Ron DeSantis is a great governor. Try buying a house in the state of Florida. He is going to leave Byron Donalds the biggest fucking mess ever, and you guys don't even see it. And I love my Florida people, Rosie, Warrior. Matt's a Florida guy now, but he's never going to be a Florida guy truly to me. But you guys know.
Let me just say, there are good people who were DeSantis supporters, and I don't ever want to take those good people and compare them to the vast amount of awful people. But there were good people in there that I have become friendly with, and they have become friends, and they have such a good heart, and they love America. But the other ones, the complete TDS, oh gosh, they're horrible.
Oh well, Rosie, that's you need to tell them they need to put the crack pipe down, the DeSantis crack pipe down now, because he's going to be irrelevant in about 8 months.
Well, and that's exactly what people who really supported him, and they're saying to the whole community, they're saying, if you really love him so much, do you realize you're killing any potential he has for a future career in politics? You're killing it just from what you're doing. So they're the ones who are saying it, and their crack pipes are down. And I'm speaking about, we're talking dozens that are I find, good company with.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad there's a few. You've restored my faith a little bit, because I've not seen evidence of that. But I'm happy that you have, Rosie. Honestly, that's good to hear. Now they need to do the right thing and vote for Byron Donalds. That'll be the true test of their merit. If they can put their pride aside, we'll see what happens. Florida's a mess, guys. I don't know if you saw. I shared I might have just DM'd it to people in Florida, but the Florida's about to have a housing crisis, probably by the fall. especially if the interest rates don't go down. You're going to have a lot of houses that people can't sell at a bargain price that are going to flood the market. I'm talking about people that are not in a position to take a $200,000 loss on their house, and it's statewide. It's not a particular county, East Coast, West Coast. I'm going to do a space on that. That northern money is leaving that state, and the cost of living is exceedingly high. And what you have is it's become California, guys. There's going to be no middle class in Florida. It's going to be all rich people, all poor people, just like California is now. And when there's no middle class, you don't win elections. You don't win midterm elections as a Republican. If there's no middle class, there's no. The only thing that is keeping Florida is foreign investment, either from out of state or from because of the weather, just like California. It's the same thing, guys, because of Hollywood, because of the that's it. Anyway, a rant for a different day. We got a new speaker who I'm not familiar with coming up. We'll say hi to her, though. This is Claire. You're up if you want to talk.
Oh, good morning. I am from Florida, fourth generation, my husband and I both. And the housing thing you were just speaking of is incredible what's going on. People can't sell their condos on the Treasure Coast because buyers can't pay cash because of insurance. It's crazy. People are taking on roommates just to try and cover the prices of condo fees, utilities and things like that. My brother's had a house for sale on a beautiful home in my town of Okeechobee, and it's been for sale for over a year, and it's completely been gutted and remodeled. Lots of people looking, but they can't afford to live here because we dropped our insurance on our house because it's paid for, because it was getting ridiculous on what they were charging us.
Yes. Yeah, I've never lived there. I was actually, funny story, I was very briefly a condo owner there due to an inheritance, but we had to sell it because it was post Katrina. I wasn't in a position to I was like 23 years old. I didn't have $40,000 to pay the condo for my share of the what the damage would have been, but we had a buyer really quick anyway. So I find that amusing that I was actually for like 3 months a fucking property owner in the state of Florida. That I still laugh at that in West Palm, but I digress. I will tell you guys, DeSantis had a lot of time to get ahead of this. The hurricanes were not his fault, but that's kind of like if you're the governor of Florida, that's part of just like when you're the governor of Alaska, you have to deal with it being light 24 hours a day for 3 months or whatever. Certain parts of Alaska, the sun doesn't go down in the wintertime. So you have to sleep with bright sun. And it affects a lot of things there, right? The ecosystem. It's just part of the gig. All right. It's like if you're the governor of Texas, you have to deal with illegal immigrants from Mexico. Dealing with hurricanes and the damage they do is just part of the gig when you're the Florida governor. I didn't hear Rick Scott complaining about this. I didn't hear Jeb Bush complaining about this. But Ron DeSantis was too busy running for president to worry about the fact that, why can't native Floridians like Claire get ahead? And why is it that the only people moving to buying houses in my state are from New Jersey and Massachusetts? Why is that? That could be, but no, he took the short-term money. He liked the money. He liked the fact that rich Democrats and blue state Republicans were moving to Florida during the pandemic, so he could say, look, I'm the only governor that's got growth during, everybody else, it was a flex for him. He was getting off on the fact that a lot of money was being dumped into the state of Florida. The problem is it wasn't regional money. It was out-of-state money. The amount of money from the north that was being spent in Florida in 2020 to 2021 was staggering, guys. They experienced a bump like nothing you've ever seen. And that was doomed to fail, guys, because you had people all panicked that were living up north where I'm from, that they were flipping out because they couldn't go to Walmart or Home Depot without masks and gloves, so they escaped to Florida. There were bidding wars. I just have to get out of I have to get out of Jersey City. I have to get out of New Brunswick, New Jersey. How much is this house? 600. Oh, I'll give you 800,000. And the Florida home. Oh, you're going to give me $800,000 for this place? I'll move you down myself. That happened a million times, guys, a year down there for about 3 years. You had very stupid buyers that went down there and overspent on places that weren't worth it. And then what happens? A hurricane comes. Guys, my father's a millionaire and he won't buy a place in Florida, even though he could afford. Why? Because he can't, like Claire was, he has USAA. They won't insure coastal property. And he goes, at 71 years old, I'm not going insurance shopping. This is ridiculous. I can't get. So when a guy like him is not going to buy a place in Florida, there's fucking problems. Just so you know, don't buy a place down there. That's my unsolicited advice to you. You will lose your shirt, and I don't want that to happen. I know a thing or two about real estate, guys. It's my side hustle. I can't think of a worse investment right now than Florida. For so many reasons. The cost of living down there is so high. You can't insure anything. You're going to be over. I can guarantee you, even if you can afford it, you're going to be overpaying. Those houses are not worth what they're on the market for. I study it every day. Claire, it looks like you want to pop back in. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just waiting for the bankruptcies and the bank seizures and all of that, because people are every weekend, and I live on a major, not, it's a highway, but it's not a major highway. It's just 2 lanes. I'm rural. I have a farm, and I see people every weekend moving their housewares. I see houses that used to have just 1 or 2 cars now have 46 cars parked in the yards in the evenings. We see it. I am actually watching what you're talking about. People becoming bankrupt because they ran down here. They bought these houses for way more than what they were worth. And it is expensive to live down here. I know a single wide mobile home in a trailer park can be, 15 to 1800 a month. And that doesn't include your electric and water. It's expensive. I'm actually looking at a bill. My last bill was $336.96. My bill used to run $175 last year. Nothing changed. And we have solar everywhere. These solar farms were supposed to lower our prices. It didn't. So you're right. It is going to be, I won't use cuss words, but it's going to be astronomical, the failure. And I do hope that Byron does get elected, because when DeSantis shut down our backs, I was done. He ran for president, and that was
Yep.
the dumbest thing he could have done.
He completely ignored you guys in his responsibilities for 6 months.
Yes.
And he was not dealing with the insurance problem down there. It started before the hurricanes. He was not dealing with that. He was not dealing with the fact that state grew more than it could handle during the pandemic. He was not encouraging anything on the local level. All he cared about was that the price of homes was going up in Florida, and he was the only governor that was benefiting from the pandemic. He was the only one. So that's all he cared about, so he can go on Fox News and have his ass kissed about running for president. And are you going to be the guy that stops Trump? And are you going to make America Florida? No, thank you. My property insurance, I live on the ocean, is at a reasonable price. I don't want New Hampshire to be Florida because I don't want my cost of living to go up 33%. That's going to put a serious dent in my finances. So no, I don't want to make America Florida. I want Florida to stay Florida. I want Idaho to stay Idaho. I want New Jersey to stay New Jersey, etc. Go ahead, Claire. Finish up, please.
Okay, so I had a salon, and when Biden was elected, I went, oh shit. So I closed. I walked away from a 40-year business, not owing a dime to anybody, but knowing I was never going to make that kind of money anymore. And then I just have I just can't get over. We have young people moving to Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama. I'm seeing it. My kids are talking about moving because we bought our property when we were in our 20s. Kids today, young adults, I should say, young adults today can't even afford to buy a first time house. And when you add insurance and property taxes, if you want to build, it's $30,000 to start for a septic tank in the state of Florida, and you have to pay for 3 years of monitoring after it's installed. So it is becoming a terrible place for new young people they want what we have, but they can't afford it. So they're having to move out of state to do it. Even the Northerners who have these little park models and things like that, that tons of them are for sale because they've had to cancel insurance or just let it go back to the bank. It's crazy.
Yes, ma'am, it was. And Sunshine, you're a Floridian. I'm gonna read you probably can't grab a mic. I'm gonna read what Sunshine 2022 said because she's down there and her and I trade war stories about it. But she brings up a good point, which I wasn't articulating well. Ron was encouraging building down there during the pandemic. He got a lot of big shots uh, to probably give him campaign donations, etc. And I'm going to tell you guys because obviously he didn't make it to the New Hampshire primary, but he did a lot of campaigning here before he dropped out. And I got to tell you guys, in my state, the only people that were defecting from MAGA and supporting him were rich people. They were all the blue state Republicans from Massachusetts that had moved up here to New Hampshire, guys with money. There was no guy like me in a pickup truck with a DeSantis sticker, guys. So, and why? Because they all have secondary homes in Florida. A lot of them are actually Florida residents because they're there 10 months out of the year. They're really only in New Hampshire July and August for, yacht season and what have you for the summer. So I get that. I see that. I understand that. But I'm just telling you, it's this. I think tomorrow or Wednesday, guys, I'm going to do a space on the salt tax because I got a big hair across my ass about that too, and that's part of this big beautiful bill, so it's relevant. Uh, Salt tax, guys, is for rich people, for rich Republicans that can still afford to live in blue states. And I'm not really a big fan of property tax at all. I'm not really a fan of any tax, guys. So I know it's going to come off like I sound like some woke MAGA person that doesn't want rich people to get breaks. We're talking about one percenters, guys. We're talking about like Mark Cuban, who's not even a Republican, and I like him. A guy like Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone doesn't need to deduct $30,000 from his property tax bill. He can afford it. We're talking about borderline billionaires, guys, Republican and Democrat alike, that still have property in these states like California and New. So you're not really hurting their bottom line. Do you think Mark Cuban even notices 30 grand? Think about it. Or Grant Cardone. We got to pick on both sides. Or Grant Cardone. Do you think he notices 30 grand? So be very, very careful that you don't get sucked into you want this bill to be perfect. The reason why Trump is so indifferent on the salt tax is because he knows it's benefiting people like him. Okay, rich people. You got to have a pretty nice house, guys, if your property taxes are 30 grand a year. You're not living in a fucking uh, ranch, 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Okay, give me a fucking break here. Expend the energy on things that are worth fighting for in that bill. I don't care if Mike Lawler, who's a congressman in Long Island, if he's in danger of losing his seat in the midterms because the rhino-rich Republicans that can still afford to live in Nassau County are pressuring him. Give me a break. Susie, go ahead.
Well, I think what you're pointing out here is that we have corruption in every institution, in every state, by deep state actors and people who are just way more interested in their pocketbook, their own personal pocketbook, than the average human being. And it's hitting, of course, here in Oregon, it's pretty bad. And at some point, I want to find some place outside of Oregon to vacation in that's a little bit friendlier in weather terms in winter, because you get really tired of eight months of rain. I can't think of one place that would be a good place to go in the entire country. Because look at Texas. What the hell is going on in Texas? Their legislature has just lost their ever-loving minds. It's just right now, until this corruption is dealt with on every level, in every corporation, in every politician's pocket, in every legislator's pocket, until that is sorted out in some way. I'm very pleased with everything Trump is doing and his entire cabinet, but holy crap, there's a lot of shit to unravel, and it's going to take some time. And so people who are like, when are we going to see arrests? When are we going to see arrests? Seriously, this shit's been going on for decades, and you expect in 3 months, 4 months, people will get arrested for this? This isn't just, little onesie twosie corruption here and there. This isn't on every level. This is a RICO. This is an organized crime network that has been going on multiple fronts. Now, the reason I was late was because I was listening. I don't like to just get the little clips of the White House press briefings or any of these things. I like to hear the whole thing. And the first question, and I think she goes to like these podcasters first, was about, they had questions, she talked about the budget, the big, beautiful budget. But she also, this guy asked about, the president put out this tweet about Clinton's suicide, these people that have been suicided that had connections to the Clintons. And it was brilliant. He pulls out this one where some guy named Meadows, or I don't know, starts with a bunch of M's, not Mark Meadows, obviously, but who was shot and hung himself, and it was deemed a suicide. That's now national news. It was bloody brilliant. But until we get hold of all of this corruption and unwind it and unwind everything Biden did and his entire crime family have been involved in, we're not going to see a whole lot of the justice that we would like to see. There was a great interview as well with Bongino and I think it was Kash Patel. Man, they got quite a job ahead of them to clean this shit up. So, anyway.
Yes. No, exactly. Yeah, they do, and that's somebody else. Rosie might have said it too, but yeah, that's the thing is, 120 odd days, and people want the world to change. Okay, so I'm very happy people are patient, because the problems don't go away, guys. The goal of Trump's administration was not to come in here and erase everything that Biden did in 4 years, and then we start this whole cycle again with JD Vance. No. Biden did irreparable damage to the United States. We're not going to arrest 20 million people. So we are, sadly, there will be another Lake and Riley. Be vigilant, protect your friends, family, and your community. But Let me just dot the I's and cross the T's on Biden before I go to. I'm going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes before I go back to Janet. You guys have been great, by the way, today. Great stuff in the purple pill. Good DMs. Good speakers. I like it. And thanks, Bella, for co-hosting. You're doing great. Monitoring that. Appreciate you very much. But this is how irrelevant Biden is, friends. And that is that I don't know if you've heard, but there's some inside baseball that a former president has to, or his foundation, not really him, but the former president has to fundraise to make their presidential library. They get donations unsolicited, of course. I think the DNC or RNC pays for part of it. They have a fund, but they have to fundraise for their presidential library. Evidently, and this is something that's been lost in the ether with all the kinetic news cycle of the Trump era here, the last 4 months. Evidently, Biden is having a very hard time financing his presidential library, which would go in Delaware, right? Where he lives. It goes in the president's hometown, like Trump's presidential library. He'll probably have two. He'll have one near Trump Tower and one in Palm Beach, right? Because his first term, he was a New York resident. His second term, he's a Florida resident. So Ronald Reagan's is in California. Richard Nixon's is in California. I've been to JFK's here in Boston, etc. Okay, it goes in the hometown of a former president, home state. But Obama's is in Chicago. Clinton's is in Little Rock, I think, etc. Biden can't get anybody to finance, and if his doesn't have long to live, it's going to be even harder for people to donate money to that when he's not alive to do favors for them. Okay, when Biden passes, guys, even though he's a vegetable, Jill Biden can't do favors on behalf of her late husband. It doesn't carry the same weight. Just like Nancy Reagan couldn't do shit for the Republican Party when Ronald Reagan died in the early 90s. By the way, I think he had dementia too before he was out of office. Bad. You saw, I mean, I was just a kid, but you saw how, Reagan was going off the rails in 1987 towards the end of his second term. I mean, you could tell Bush, the talons were in there with the Iran-Contra and all the other dumb shit we were doing. That was very unlike his first term. So I do think Ronald Reagan had Alzheimer's, and Nancy Reagan and George Bush Sr. were running things. So I'm an equal opportunity basher, guys, right? So think about all that and realize where we're at. Biden, guys, is so irrelevant. Like it's going to be like he was never president between most of the stuff that Trump can undo in the next 2 years and a bit, and just the fact that he really didn't do anything of substance. Didn't pass a tax cut, didn't pass legislation. Obama had a legacy. It was a shitty one, but he had Obamacare. He had, the Levant, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq collapsed under his watch. Iran got powerful again after being weakened during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that we were waging, right? Etc. So it's going to be like he was like an NPC president, like a non-player character president. The dude was like ghosted. He was a ghost, figuratively anyway, right? Okay, Janet, I think you're going to be the last speaker because I told the customer I'd call him back at 11:15 Eastern. It's 10:11. I'm sorry, 10:15 Eastern. It's 10:11. Go ahead, Janet.
Thank you for letting me speak again. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on what Susie was saying about having no place to go for a trip. Arkansas is a wonderful state. If you can put up with, a few ticks and some mosquito bites and a little bit of humidity, well, a lot of humidity, there's wonderful things to do for any outdoors person. Hiking, camping, fishing, beautiful, beautiful things to see. And Hot Springs is a majestic town. We have a lot to offer anyone who wants to come to visit, and not just because I live here, but that's one reason why I moved here. as I grew up off and on here, because that's when my dad retired when he got out of the military. But we also have a good governor that's really trying hard to get things done in our state, even though it's a small speck compared to the rest of the United States. The thing is that I feel for people in your position, Susie. All the stuff that you've talked about over the years that I've known you, about the trials and tribulations of Oregon, basically, and you being surrounded by California and Washington, doesn't make it any easier. But I'd be happy to help you plan something if you wanted to go to Hot Springs or to dig for diamonds or whatever, and maybe I can meet up with you when you did come. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you for letting me speak, and God bless America.
Sweet, thank you. Shout out to Bella. Thank you very much for helping me out here, giving mics and all that. I appreciate that. You guys have a wonderful day. I do recommend listening to that White House press conference in full, because whatever Caroline speaks, that's a 5 minutes old directive from the president. So, by the way, last thing in the nest, please bookmark this. JD Vance is now, he's on Air Force 2 coming back from the Vatican, and they were asking him about Biden. So Chief Nerd has JD Vance is saying, we really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. I don't think that he was in good enough health. In some ways, I blame him less, and I blame the people around him. Okay, so you see the quick narrative that's trying to be woven here by our team. We're not taking our foot off the gas pedal. The guy's dying of cancer, evidently. That doesn't mean he didn't do criminal activities as president. And the fact that he was in power when he medically should not have been is criminal in and of itself. So I'm happy. They're not giving it a 24-hour grace period. That goes to show the amount of respect that Trump has for Biden, which is zero. And that's the way it should be. All right. Have a great day, guys. I got to bounce. I got to make a call and go to work. Appreciate you all. Look for my salt tax space. As many of you don't know or don't care what it is, but it's very relevant with the big, beautiful bill. Take care. Bye.
First off, let me convey to my family, friends, and supporters that now is not the time to gloat. We must remember that most of our left-leaning friends are good people who want the same things in life as we do, but simply think differently on how to get there. It is now time to be the bigger man, to extend an olive branch and unite all reasonable people of this great nation. God has blessed America, and together with President Trump, we will make America great again.